Good morning. It's actually quite a beautiful day out here today in my home area. It's sunny and not so windy. I don't know how warm it's going to be, but it's actually nice, something to look forward to as spring is here. Um, Today I'm just going to present you with the usual data and some other stuff about within the United States as well. But I kind of labeled everything as red, yellow, and green, kind of in the stoplight format. So in terms of case fatality, Italy, the UK, Belgium, Netherlands, France, Spain, all those countries have case fatalities above 10%, with Italy at 13%. So that's the probability of dying if one has the coronavirus. Their prevalences are high. Again, we have to rely on the way people collect data, and we're relying on people reporting and accurately reporting timely reports from healthcare workers who are very busy, even though they're asked to report this. So we're hopefully all the data are correct, and we can't always trust how data collection is done in every country, especially countries where finances are lower. So it's really tough, but these are the best data we have. As we see, Italy is still, in terms of prevalence, is one of the hot spots in the world. The United States, we're at 138 per 100,000. So that's good news too, that for such a large country. Although the more testing we do, probably the more cases will pop up. So we look at these markers just to give us a just view of what's going on. Like a small country like Luxembourg has 426,000 cases per 100,000, but it's a very small population. Let's look at the usual figures I have, again, to see that we're still growing. Although slowly we're growing. But you'll see that the majority of those cases are localized to certain states. And in comparison to Italy in green and Spain in blue, we're still growing. They're kind of catching up. However, they're also leveling off. So that's good news for them, too, that perhaps the prevalence is starting to slow down. The growth in the prevalence is starting to slow down. And I see South Korea is getting flatter and flatter and flatter. And I've shown you these figures before, so I'll kind of I won't really spend a lot of time on them. They're just showing you how important it is to have hospitals in blue, hospital beds per 1,000 individuals compared to the proportion of the population 65 and above, and how that relates to case fatality. And here's your population density. So it's really important to have that. And the lack of hospital beds could be an indicator of healthcare, the seriousness of healthcare for the elderly and care for the elderly, where there's this gap between proportion of the population that's 65 and above and hospital beds. You see this really big number of cases, or higher case fatality, I should say. And this is the figure where I actually highlight that, where I divided the proportion of hospital beds per 1,000 by the proportion of the population that's 65 and above, and you can see that as this increases, the case fatalities here in red decrease. So there's a really nice relation there, and I've shown that in regression already. I'm not going to waste your time with that, because I know a lot of people aren't that interested in that. I am. So on average, just to look at that, and I highlighted the U.S. here as separate. We're like in the middle, right? We're in the middle. These are the countries that are in yellow. They have decently high case fatalities, but they're certainly nothing compared to the red ones. And then you have the ones that are in green here, like Germany was an interesting case. In Luxembourg, despite all the prevalence per 100,000, their case fatalities are pretty low. So it probably says something about those countries. And this is the average prevalence per 100,000 among those countries, and this is the median, so it's skewed to the right. It means they're skewed by some countries that have very high prevalences. And in terms of the case fatalities, we're around, on average, almost 4.5, and then the median's around 3.3. And let's look at some of the U.S. data. This is interesting. I started this the other day, and what's interesting here is the states that have the greatest number of confirmed cases, active cases, and deaths. It's easier for us to do this because at least we have some more control over the way data are collected. But again, the the number of confirmed cases does not necessarily represent the number of true cases, as Dr. Levine talks about. There are something called presumed cases, because, for instance, if somebody tests positive in a household and somebody else starts feeling sick in the household, they are a presumed case, but they're not asked to come in to get tested, because if they're okay on their own and the disease takes its course but doesn't have any major ramifications, there's no need to get them tested and to expose others. So there's probably a great deal of presumed cases. So this value here, if we talk about active cases, is probably a lot higher than this. What does that all mean? Okay, so that means our prevalence is probably going to be higher. Prevalence in New York is 763 per 100,000. That's huge. New Jersey, it's 581. Again, very big. Michigan. So these are the three. And well, Massachusetts. I did this I organized this by case fatality, but in terms of prevalence, Massachusetts would be third, followed by Michigan. So there's some high prevalence in these states, and in California, it's 50 per 100,000. If we look at the case fatalities, not to be it's as is expected. You have about 4.5 in New York, followed by New Jersey. Well, I didn't do this by case fatality. I think I did this by confirmed cases. That's what I did. Okay, case fatality in Michigan, it's 5.6, and this is an issue because we know that also we're learning that there may be ethnic disparities in the number of deaths from the coronavirus. So this is something that needs to be looked at, but those data aren't available yet. There's data collection and dealing with death certificates is something that is time consuming, and it'll come out soon, but probably about a year or so we'll have all the data we need to fully analyze this. Just for your information, the proportion of all confirmed cases in the United States, so there's 501,615, 34% are in New York State. They have 33% of active cases and 42% of all deaths. So, if you put New York and New Jersey together, it's 45% of all confirmed cases, 44% of all active cases, and then the proportion of all confirmed cases in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I put those three together because those are this tri-state area. That's 47% of all confirmed cases, 44% of all active cases, and 54% of all deaths. And if we take the states that have the three states with the largest number of confirmed cases, they make up 49% of all confirmed cases, 49% of all active cases, and 55% of all deaths. So when we think about the U.S., and you say, oh gosh, it's growing exponentially, or whatever people want to say. It doesn't look like it's exponential to me. And what you're seeing is that a lot of this is driven by New York, New Jersey, and Michigan. So it's very localized right now. All right, that's it for today. Thank you, and stay safe. Have a good day.